These are garbanzo beans, and we're going to do the quickest tutorial on how to pressure can them, the no soak method. So get yourself some garbanzo beans, don't soak them, just clean them, and let's get canning. All right, this is going to be quick and easy for you friends. Jars. I use wide mouth pint-sized jars for all my beans because they're easier to get out. So depending on the size of your canner, you need to prep your jars. How do you prep your jars? All you simply do is wash them in soapy water and rinse them. You don't need to dry them. Then you set them out on a towel. This is what I do. And then you're going to start heating up some water. Don't boil it, don't overheat it. This is the water that is going to be going into your jars over your beans. Also prep your canner, which means you need to put 2 to 3 inches of water in your pressure canner and get it on the stove and get it heated up. In the meantime, you're also going to take your garbanzo beans and rinse them. You don't need to soak them, you just need to rinse them. I did a real good rinse, and I just, sometimes, you know, when you have like other types of beans, like black beans or kidney beans, you might have some ones that are not good. Just pick them out. Then what you're going to do is you are going to take, hopefully you have, and these are great. I love the stainless steel funnels. They work really well, but if you don't, a plastic one is fine. But then you're going to actually scoop your dry beans. And all you need is a nice hefty scoop of about, just like that, a half a cup. And you're going to start filling your jars. And this is while your water is heating up and you've got your canner going. This is such an easy recipe. This is a good beginner recipe, especially when it comes to beans, because beans can be very arduous of a task to can, because everybody pre-soaks and they spend all this extra time and energy, and I don't like spending extra time and energy in the kitchen, especially when I lived off the grid. I had a lot of work to do, and I wasn't going to spend it canning all day and all night. Now, the other thing is, you don't have to worry so much with your garbanzo beans, but there are some beans that cause a lot of gas, and people say the reason why you soak it is because it breaks down that, I believe it's either in the skin, but it's some type of enzyme. Well, I'm going to tell you this. This method will break down to ensure that it is not causing gas, because these are going to be cooked. And then what I do is when I open up my jar, I rinse my beans. So whatever is left in the jar that may cause gas from the cooking process is going to be rinsed away. So do you understand that? So this method is not a method if people start complaining like, well, you need to pre-soak because of the gas. No, you don't. This takes care of it. Now, also, you want to get your lids ready. And yeah, I got my lids and my bands in one container here. What I did is I just put some hot water in there. Now, Ball has changed their prepping when it comes to the lids themselves. They said now the lid material, this little band here, you do not need to boil your lids anymore. You don't need to put them in hot water. You don't need to prep them anymore. It's right on their website. I have canned without boiling my lids. I have canned with only putting them in hot water. I have also canned without doing anything. And I have always had a good seal. I have all our jars prepped, and we don't want that boiling. This is our water. So it is warmed up. And what we're going to do is we are going to cover those beans now with that water, and then we're going to put our lids and our bands on. What I like to do is I use a 1 cup measuring. I don't use a ladle. I don't use I like the measuring cup. And I like it to be metal because I really don't care for using the plastic. when you fill your jars, you're going to fill them up to a point where you have just about a half an inch of head space, which means right from the very top of this rim, you're going to fill them up so you have only about a half an inch room. If you do too little, what's going to happen is your beans are going to be dry. If you do too much, you're going to affect the seal, and it may cause your jars to explode. I mean, and when I say explode, what actually ends up happening is the bottom of the glass jar will pop out. And I've been doing this for such a long time that I don't need a measuring tool. I just eyeball it. I know what a half an inch head space is. And, you know, don't get so wrapped up like, oh, is it exactly a half an inch? Eyeball it. Okay, then what you're going to do is put your lids on. And I want to just show you this rule, because if you're new, what you're going to do is you're going to put your lid on, and then your band, you are going to just twist it so that it is snug. Not tight, not loose, snug. It's like a half an inch turn. If you tighten it too much, you're going to have an issue, okay? So you don't want to over tighten it. Please do not over tighten it. It just needs to be snug. So I just go boom, 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 one after another. And this is why it really helps to have everything set up when you're canning. You see how easy this is. And again, just snug. All right, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take this tool. You see this? Use the red end. Don't use the black end. This is your jar grabber. You're going to grab your jar, and I love this. You need to have the right tools when you're canning. And you're simply going to make sure your rack is on the bottom. You are going to place these jars in your pressure canner. Now remember, we're heating up that water. It's not, as you see, it's not a rolling boil. It's just heated. And you don't have to worry about temperature. You just have it on the stove and you're getting it prepped. Now, this canner is a canner that can actually double stack. So when you're putting your jars in the pressure canner at this time, you can get them close to each other like that. Don't worry about it. But you cannot double stack jars on top of each other. You actually need a canning rack in between. So you see, I've got all my jars there. And what I'm going to do, because this is a double stacker, I'm going to put, see that? And if you don't have say you bought a used pressure canner and it's a double stacker and you don't have one of these, you can use lids. You can use a lid to a pot. I mean, you can use canning lids, a lid to a pot. You can be creative as long as you have something in between and it's made out of some type of metal. All right, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now, these 3 jars here, I did not soak the lids in warm water. And I'm actually going to mark them because it'll be an experiment. We'll see how good they seal, okay? But it all has to do with the procedure. It's not so much soaking the lids, but I'm going to mark them so we know that these were not soaked or preheated. Now that you got all your jars in there, you are going to put your lid on. With these pressure canners, there is, I don't know if you're going to see this, but there usually is an arrow, and there's another arrow on your pot, and it tells you how to, where to line it up so that it goes on very simply. What I like to do then is turn my canner to where I can see, and this canner, okay, so we closed the lid, and now what you're going to do is you're going to build up the pressure. You are going to turn up the heat a little bit, and you are going to wait for the vent hole to start steaming When it starts steaming consistently, you're going to start your timer for 15 minutes. This is a press start canner that is a double stack. It doesn't make any difference if you have a regular press start canner that doesn't have a gauge on it, that just has a weighted gauge, and you only are doing one stack. The processing time is going to be the same, double stack or one stack. All these pressure canners are the same. But I will tell you, I am at an elevation of over 4,000 feet. So my canning time may be different from where you are. Back in Wisconsin and Idaho, I didn't have to deal with elevation. So my processing time for my beans was just simply 75 minutes for pint jars at 15 pounds. I believe it was 15 pounds. I'd have to check. But here, it's different. I actually have to process my beans a little bit longer. All right, your pressure canner will vent for 15 minutes, then you're going to put your gauge on. Now, check your pressure, because again, this recipe, I'm at 4,000 feet. I am going to do about 13 pounds of pressure. I know it's kind of odd. And right now I'm a little bit high, so I'm just going to back it off of the burner. That's all you got to do. And sometimes you got to find that sweet spot. And then you're going to start your timing. And my timing for these beans are going to be 90 minutes. So go according to your altitude for your beans. Go according to if they're pint size or quart size. Quarts are going to take longer. Pint size are going to take less. But this is the time where you're going to check your own particular recipe. And then you're going to time it and you're going to watch that pressure. Okay, now this is the easy part. After your canner has cooled down and I removed it from the stove, you are going to take your jars, and it takes about a good hour for you to be able to open it up. But just remember, it's still, if you look at this, it's still going to be cooking. I mean, it's amazing how many hours after you pull your food from the canner that it's still going to be cooking. So don't freak out. That's just the way it is. But now we're going to go back to those original lids, because as you see, I marked them and they are perfectly sealed. The other thing I want to mention is just remember, these beans need to be stored in a cool, dark place. Hopefully you have a pantry, or you can always convert a bedroom or a closet, or, you know, be creative. But keep them out of the sun, label them, and then the other thing is they're good to use within 24 hours. You can crack it open, and within 24 hours they're usable, but they will last on the shelf for years and years and years and years. I don't put a date on my canned goods, meaning I rotate my stock, but if I've got something that's 5 years old, 8 years old, I know it's going to be good, because this process really lasts forever. All right, there you go. There's Starry Canning 101. I hope you learned something. God bless you, friends. And remember, all the preps in the world is useless unless you recognize God as your sustainer.